Our final speaker is Meryem Aslan, who's an advisor at the UN Trust to End Violence Against Women with UNIFEM. Meryem has a long record of working on issues of gender violence, particularly with UNIFEM, including some years in Afghanistan. So Meryem, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, then I start with responding to the research, which we did a little bit yesterday, I think. And as I said yesterday, I would like to thank all the researchers for such an important piece of work. As I talk as a United Nations, and we do work within the framework of international agreements, and one of them is Convention for Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. The other is Beijing Platform for Action. The other Convention of the Rights of Child, and etc. You know, serious conventions on social economic rights, and conventions on elimination of violence against women. And as usually not in this platform, but with member states, I like to say that I am a civil servant, only trying to do what the member states has put as aspiration of the states, and aspiration to make all the citizens of the world live an equal, to benefit from equal opportunities and to fulfill their full potentials. In this framework, of course, any study that shows us the continuing discriminations that exist and persist, and any study that makes the links between the discrimination and well-being of women, and the link between discrimination and possibilities of women using her full potential are very welcomed, and they are very welcomed also for further informing our programmatic approaches. So thank you very much. Now, for UNIFEM, the issue is one of gender justice issue, but also one of an economic issue, economic empowerment issue. And most of the time, we approach the issue of inheritance both within legal and judicial reform framework, but we do approach it within the economic empowerment programs as well. And our framework is most of the time is a governance framework that includes, of course, state apparatus and the relation of the state with its citizen, women, men, children, and ethnic religious group, however the populations are divided. We do work at international, regional, national, and at community levels. And just to give a few examples of, for example, at international level, just in a month or two, end of this year, the new issue of Progress of Women of the World is coming out. This is a report UNIFEM publishes every 2 years. And the issue for this publication is gender and justice. And there you will see a lot of references to inheritance rights of women. And as Kate earlier said, that you will see some statistics as well. In sub-Saharan Africa, I think, on top of my head, 58% of women doesn't have access to land, inheritance rights, etc. But these are also legally not provided in constitutions or laws. In South Asia, 50% of women. In Middle East, around 50 to 60% of women. And as we go to Latin America and Europe, it goes really down. I mean, it gets much better. So there will be a report addressing this only part of it, of course, only about inheritance rights, and it is much more than that. Again, in the global platform, these kind of studies and findings, of course, are put on global meetings. In for example, recently in MDG meeting that took place, the MDG summit, but in General Assembly meetings and Security Council meetings, etc., just in an effort to push member states that had shown that aspiration and that policy commitment to give a little bit more push for implementation of those policies and for aspirations to become realities for millions of people across the world. Because I think the situation is much more dire than what we think. Again, according to a United Nations report, by 2015, 1.5 billion people will be landless or without property, and 2/3 of these will be women. This is an estimation. So the situation is not looking so good, and we try to intervene in international arena, but in national arena, what we do is the complementarity, the consistency of constitutions and legal frameworks of countries with these international aspirations is extremely important. And it is, I think, for women, it is extremely important to have a legal framework in every country that protects their rights equally with men. I know the discussions always go, but that is not enough. But it is, I think, a great message the states send to its citizens, saying that, we see you equal, we acknowledge that equality, and we are gonna put it on the law, and we are gonna work with you to achieve this. So it is a very, very important message, and for that reason, we work with the countries, together with civil society and states, first mapping all the constitutions and civil and criminal law from a gender perspective. We did this in many countries: Afghanistan, Kenya, Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Tanzania, Uganda. I think we included Djibouti as well, and it is becoming more and more. And that mapping together with the government and civil society does give us the gaps in personal law, civil law, including inheritance rights, marriage rights, custody rights, property rights in general, and even it's sometimes decision making, mobility, and ability to travel, etc. They are identifying that gaps and then creating platform for the civil society and the government, judicial and legislative bodies to interact and to negotiate, and creating a platform more or less for citizens to renegotiate their rights. The women to renegotiate their rights is a major intervention we do, and we think that is the most natural right of a citizen and most natural right of women. So we give a lot of importance on that. To that, it is not only the legal reform and creating a platform for more progressive laws and laws that are in line with international conventions, but also implementation, enforcement of laws are very, very important, and we have many programs that addresses enforcement, that is working with judicial bodies, with the police, and again putting the communities and judicial bodies together for implementation of law. And again looking into national development strategies of governments, and looking into the programs and projects and actions of governments and their budgets, and trying to integrate prevention and protection services within the government programs, that is education, from education to health to social protection to economic development. And one issue we emphasize a lot is gender budgeting, that is, looking into government expenditure and its investment income and investment choices, and trying to negotiate, but also trying to negotiate budget and budgeting government's action to allow policies to work. And at community level, there are many initiatives that sometimes I would say replacing services, but many times are really geared towards achieving change in what we would say more social actors in household, at household level, but at community level with traditional leaders, with religious leaders, with subnational governance systems, the local administrators that are very near to people most of the time in government sector, working with them and trying to change attitude, behavior, concepts, and approach to women and women issues in general. Specifically on inheritance rights, I will give you few examples of what we have been supporting at community level. One is, for example, Women's Legal Aid Center in Tanzania, that is assisting the court cases seeking to claim property taken from widows by their in-laws. Or, for example, Education Center for Women in Democracy in Kenya, running programs for preventing violations of women's property and inheritance rights by using certain methods, community training that's done by paralegals, or training of administrative officers or chief assistants, etc. The AIDS support organization in Uganda that is emphasizing on writing wills with the HIV clients and working with HIV clients, but service providers for HIV to talk about importance of women's property and inheritance rights and consequences for women in case they don't have those access to land. The Lawyers Collective in India does a lot of legal assistance to women, but also does public litigation. I would like to give another example of public litigation. We just started in Kenya. It is just starting conceptualization. We keep talking about widows, and in Kenya, there is a practice when a husband dies, at least among some of the communities, when a husband dies, there is a practice of cleansing of the widow. So the widow, in order to cleanse the widow from a bad spirit, they either get some family member to sleep with the woman as soon as the husband dies, or now it became even worse that they get people like consultants that sleep with this woman. So it is nearly an official rape, and the state doesn't take any action against this act, what do they say, harmful traditional practice. And we did lots of interviews with the widows, and widows are kind of feeling so helpless, because if they don't accept this, they lose all their rights to property, they lose their rights to child custody, and they are shown of the community. They are not employed in the community. They really have to leave the area as a whole. and go somewhere else. And then we cooperated with an legal organization in Canada to start public litigation and take action on the issue, because we thought this is going to be the only way to deal with the issue. This is only one case. I mean, you see a lot of things like this, with the widow being passed through the family members in Afghanistan as well. You see it in Middle East as well. And in Kenya, I mean, it is not only rape, but in that area, well, it's bad enough, I guess. In that area also the HIV rates jumped rocket sky, all driven with this practice. It is like in that area the HIV infection rate is up to 50%, and it is mostly women. So it is a little bit how do you say, it's quite difficult to see these kind of situations and to live in this kind of situations, and to try to think, of course, what action to take. And as I said, we are taking these actions, but I don't know how long will it take for us to start to see a real result. And in that sense, I would say another area we are very much concentrating at the moment is how can we actually escalate the effect? How can we have a faster result, and not result for donors or reporting and so on, but actually for protection of women. What can we do to get a better impact and more immediately? And in that sense, we are pulling together a lot of knowledge together. I was very glad to see GTZ's global library, but you will see at UNIFEM as well the virtual knowledge center that looks into, you know, how judiciary, economic empowerment services and interconnectedness of these issues with violence against women. It is a virtual center that collects existing knowledge, research practices from across the world, and it is distributed very widely. And there are many other knowledge products like this, but more than this, we are trying to convene very different players and to kind of streamline many different interventions that can increase the possibility for better impact, more positive impact. Thank you very much.